Journeys Through Spacetime by James Talisman. Chapter 7 Traveling Through the Stars Can Have Its Danger. Croatia, capital city of Eurotopia. Returning home from the restaurant, Rashella reassured Cicero that she was okay and told him she would like to retire to her study to meditate and plan for tomorrow's inspection of the starships. Convinced that his wife was okay, Cicero kissed her deeply and told her to wake him if she needed anything. After changing into more comfortable clothes, Rashella entered her study and sat down in her favorite chair to relax and meditate. Settling into the chair, she spoke to the home's artificial intelligence. "Grace, please play some soothing music." As calming music played from the surrounding speakers, Rashella began to let her mind drift and all her outside thoughts dissipate. Once her mind was at peace, she began to ponder the words spoken earlier that evening. That voice seemed so real and so familiar. I have heard that voice in my mind before. It usually comes whenever I have important questions. I wonder what was meant concerning Eurotopia being an experiment. This time, the usual inner voice did not respond to her questions. Slowly coming out of the deep meditation, Rashella felt peaceful and energized at the same time. I should review the ancient wisdom text again. Those sacred texts may help me better understand what was spoken in my mind, and how to ensure Eurotopia stays on the correct path. She got up and walked over to her desk. "Grace, please display the original ancient esoteric wisdom volumes and all accompanying relevant information." Rashella began to peruse the vast amount of information currently displayed on the three-dimensional screens in front of her. She spent the next couple hours engrossed in the ancient wisdom given to the early Eurotopian ancestors. As fatigue crept in, Rashella quickly reviewed the next day's schedule before retiring to the bedroom for much-needed rest. Rashella woke up the next day feeling refreshed from a restful night's sleep. As usual, her dreams were wonderful experiences of interacting in pleasant environments. While seeming somewhat familiar to her own world's surroundings, they were also slightly different. A place where ancient and modern seemed to be intertwined. "Grace, please run my favorite breakfast recipe," asked Rashella as she entered the kitchen. Soon the RMO turned on and began materializing her favorite breakfast consisting of fresh fruit, Treluvian berry yogurt, and a tall glass of milk. Soon the door of the reality matrix organizer opened to present a perfectly made breakfast. The RMO was a recent invention. The industrial versions were an enormously valuable tool in the building of the starships. Based on their understanding of quantum physics and the ancient wisdom concerning reality's actual structure, Eurotopia's greatest minds developed a system that could manipulate and recombine elemental energy to produce practically any matter desired. Basic food combinations and raw building materials had been the easiest to reproduce. As the complex algorithms needed to open and control the matrix were expanded upon, more unique creations were being developed every day. Each time Rashella used the RMO, she was reminded of her own contributions to the original operating software code. Walking to the dining room table, Rashella greeted her husband of more than 10 years. "Good morning, love. I hope you slept well and had some enjoyable dreams." "I did, my beautiful partner. I hope your sleep was okay after last evening's event at the restaurant." Cicero took the last few bites of his more traditional breakfast of perloche and bacon, eggs, and toasted baguette with Yucatan butter. "I actually feel good. My intuition feels slightly off, but I was still able to have a useful meditation. I started studying the ancient text again after what I heard in my mind last night. The words concerning Eurotopia being an experiment have me wondering what that truly means. We truly do live in a marvelous world, and now I must get ready for today's contribution to the commons," exclaimed Cicero as he rose from the table and kissed his wife before departing to prepare for his day at the robotics workshop. As a premier roboticist, Cicero's skills were highly valued and sought after throughout the UCE. I hope you have a wonderful day. I will be representing the UCE Council today for the second stage inspections on Starships 1, 2 and 3. It will be a full day, but perhaps we can go out for drinks and dinner later tonight. Sounds like a plan. Should I arrange transportation for you as well? Called out Cicero as he pulled out his mobile communicator to summon a skycab. Don't worry about me. They are sending a transport from the building site. Landing at the massive building site for the first 3 starships of the UCE and Andosha United Interstellar Space Fleet, Rashella was greeted by representatives of the Starship build team and the Andoshan delegation as she disembarked from the sky transport craft. So wonderful to see you again, Madam Counselor. I hope your flight over here went well, said Director Basak as he moved forward to help Rashella down from the transport craft. Thank you, Director. It is wonderful to see you again as well. The capital city looked fabulous in the morning sun. It always amazes me how truly breathtaking Croatia looks in either day or nighttime. Rashella took Director Basak's outstretched hand and walked down the exit steps of the air transport. It has been a little while since you last observed the progress on these starships, Madam Counselor. I believe you last saw them after the initial outer shells had been built. Much has advanced since your last visit, said the director as they all walked towards the main hangars. I have been studying the construction schematics and drawings the whole time. I'm excited to see the actual builds at this juncture, replied Rashella. Walking through the door to the skywalk overlooking the spacecraft, Rashella was impressed with the 3 starships parked below on the hangar bay floor. The way the highly impenetrable dimension element used for the ship's hulls glistened under the hangar lights and the size of these magnificent crafts amazed Rashella as she gazed at the spaceships below. Rashella's engineering side began to think about all the wonderful designs she would get to experience once they boarded the craft for the preliminary inspections. Due to her natural aptitude for engineering and computer programming, Rashella excelled quickly among her fellow engineers. Along with her amazing engineering skills, she also had natural abilities to see the big picture and convey her thoughts in a manner that put everyone at ease. Recognizing Rashella's incredible and multiple talents, the UCE Council offered her a position as co-counselor. She was currently the youngest member of the UCE Council. We shall first check out Starships 2 and 3 and save our flagship for last, said Director Basak while gesturing for everyone to board the elevator to the hangar floor. Entering Starship 3 was truly a sight. Rashella had been aboard and even flown in the ships the UCE used for intersolar travel. While the technology of the intersolar spacecraft was impressive, these new Starship designs took the technologies to a new level. Improving on some of the Andoshan ship's design and adding many new features created by the UCE and Andosha collaboration, these starships combined and constantly improved upon the best technologies of both worlds. While the initial partnership between the 2 world races was not completely optimal, the Eurotopians soon showed the Andoshans the power of true collaboration and common goals. As they prepared to venture out into the galaxy together, the partnership and shared goals between the 2 races were now helping to form the basis for the start of a possible galactic union with other species. Is that the new interstellar navigation system I've been looking at through the build plans? Asked Rashella as she walked over to a console located on the port side of the main bridge of the ship. Yes, it is, Counselor. Perhaps you would like to turn it on, Director Basak replied. Rashella nodded enthusiastically, before typing in the login code she remembered from the schematics. Soon, a huge 3-dimensional image of the Therosan galaxy was displayed. As Rashella touched the image in different places, additional information was displayed on an adjoining monitor that gave exact coordinates and information concerning stars and their associated planetary systems in that area of the image. Approving nods came from all members of the inspection team. The inspection and tour continued as Director Basak showed the group some of the living quarters and the crew's community lounge and eating space. The director led the group down one of the main passageways. Next, I would like everyone to take a look at the main engineering space. This is also where the main FTL engines and weapon systems are located. You will notice as we enter, some work being performed at the rear of the space. That is where the new weapon systems are being installed. They all stopped outside the engineering space located near the rear of the ship. As the big electronic sliding doors opened and everyone began to walk in, Rashella was once again totally in awe of what she was privileged to view. Massive structures on both the starboard and port sides of the huge engineering room stood over 40 feet in height and almost 20 feet in diameter. Those huge assemblies you see on each side of this space are the FTL engines for this starship. They will provide both intersolar and interstellar propulsion as needed. As I am sure everyone here is aware, when the FTL drives are fully engaged, the ship can travel at speeds greater than the speed of light without damage to the ship or her crew. The technology surrounding warp drive is extremely complicated, so unfortunately I will not have the time to explain the concept further today. Please check out all the information available if that is of interest, relayed the director as he pointed at the two huge engines. I have, in fact, researched all available information and specifications surrounding these engines. It is truly amazing how speeds faster than light can be achieved and maintained for long periods of time, exclaimed Rashella. After observing the remaining systems on Starship 3 and a tour of Starship 2, the group was escorted to Starship 1 to view the flagship of the interstellar fleet. Thinking she could not be more impressed from what she observed aboard Starship 2 and 3, Rashella was overjoyed as she entered the interstellar fleet's flagship vessel and primary command ship. The command bridge of Starship 1 was indeed a sight to see. Various tactical, navigation, science and engineering stations lined the outside walls of the circular bridge area, and a huge 20 by 40-foot display screen was mounted at the front of the bridge. The director showed everyone how any information displayed at the various workstations could also be displayed on the front display for the captain and crew to view as needed. Along with the video links to the other stations, this huge display could also provide a full 360-degree view of the space around the ship. As with the other vessels, this incredible ship had a three-dimensional navigation console on the port side, and another engineering console on the starboard side that could display all the ship's systems in 3D, to include any pertinent information on additional screens. Directly in the middle of the bridge was the captain's chair with workstation consoles on each side. "Perhaps you would like to sit in the captain's chair, Madam Counselor," asked Director Basak as he gestured towards the chair at the center of the bridge. Rashella was beside herself with joy as she eased herself into the chair. To her left and right were the captain's consoles that allowed full control of any system on the ship. The huge display in front of her showed all workstation views in one glance. As everyone in the group was admiring all the technologies, the door to the bridge opened and there stood Captain Pikeson, Starship 1's commanding officer and leader of the maiden test voyage, scheduled to occur in just 3 short weeks. "You look very good in that seat, Madam Counselor," Captain Pikeson said as he walked onto the bridge. "I'm definitely not qualified for that, Captain, but I know you are for sure," replied Rashella as she got up from the chair to greet Captain Pikeson. Of all the candidates for the position, Captain Pikeson was by far the best choice to command the new interstellar fleet's flagship. As the leading admiral of the intersolar fleet, Captain Pikeson had agreed to retake the captain rank so he could command Starship 1. "While it is an honor and true pleasure to meet you, Madam Counselor, I was asked to come here today to make a special request of you," the captain said as he shook Rashella's hand. "Thank you, Captain, and it is an honor to meet you as well. So, what is the nature of this special request?" "After consultations between Fleet Command, the Andosian delegation, myself, and your own co-counselors, a unanimous decision was made to offer you a ride aboard Starship 1 on her maiden voyage. I realize there is only a short time to prepare, but we would all be very honored if you accepted," said Captain Pikeson as he looked into Rashella's eyes and smiled. "My good Captain, I am stunned right now. I'll have to discuss this with my husband, but this is a great honor indeed. The rest of the inspection and tour of Starship One was as amazing as the others. Rashella had a little problem concentrating as she contemplated being a part of this spectacular event in Eurotopia's incredible journey. Rhinon, capital city of Herasan on the planet Ellipsan. Feeling slightly dazed from the strange experience at the soaking pool, Tyson requested to take the rest of the day off from his duties at the Space Command research facilities. As Tyson rode the transport shuttle from SCR back to the inner city where his apartment flat was located, he pondered what happened earlier. The words, "Your progress has been a pleasure to observe. Please continue this path you have chosen," echoed in Tyson's mind as he thought about the experience. Who was that voice I heard in my head? It feels somewhat familiar for some reason, and what path is it referring to? Tyson asked himself as he watched the barren land flow by from the window next to his seat. The high-speed shuttle stopped a few blocks from Tyson's apartment. Getting off the shuttle, Tyson found many people already heading towards Rhinon's Central Park to observe the Hecatomb ritual later that night. I'm not so sure I want to be a part of that this year. I'm really starting to have issues with that ritual anymore, thought Tyson as he headed the other direction towards his flat. Arriving at his flat, Tyson entered his security code at the front door of the building before walking up 2 flights of stairs to reach his apartment. Even though he was considered part of the richen class, Tyson's living space was a modest 1-bedroom unit, with a couple windows that allowed views of the front street and another residential building from the bedroom. Due to lack of resources throughout the Ellipsan world, this small apartment with modest furnishings was considered a premier living space by most of the Ellipsan population. The richen class was considered part of the upper middle bracket of the Ellipsan caste system. Members of this upper middle class generally were higher educated individuals who mainly held positions in technological, medical and scientific related fields. Tyson's parents were both from the richen class, and that guaranteed him membership in that class as well. Upward movement in class status was almost never seen, but failure to obey the laws of the ruling elite could most definitely cause an individual to lose class status and all rights and privileges afforded that caste level. Due to this situation, rebellion within an Ellipsan faction was almost unheard of. Those who did usually met a bad fate. I think I'll take a quick shower and then relax and meditate some this evening. Spending time clearing my thoughts usually helps provide insight to my questions, thought Tyson as he started to undress. The cool shower mist felt good on his dry, scaly skin. Tyson always wished there could be more water for the shower, but he knew that was basically impossible for his station in life. Due to its limited nature, pure free-flowing water was only reserved for the most upper elite. The poorest Subon class were forced to bath in dirty rivers or the leftover pools generated from the central cave drain outflows. As Tyson sat to meditate, he found that while he was able to clear his thoughts as he had learned, the familiar inner intuition seemed to be non-existent. Finally feeling at peace, he was pulled out of a relaxed meditative state by a ringing on his intercom. Tyson opened his eyes and got up to answer the unwelcome call from outside on the street. "Yes, how can I help you?" asked Tyson as he toggled the intercom's output button. "Hey my good friend. There is a bunch of us heading to the Hecatomb ritual. I wanted to see if you would join us," replied Tyson's old friend and former classmate Kesson. While Tyson had no desire to experience the ritual this year, he knew if he declined the offer to join, there would be all kinds of questions from his friend and the others in the group. "Give me a minute and I'll be right down," said Tyson through the intercom. Coming outside, Tyson nodded towards his former classmate while trying not to show his annoyance. "So glad you came down. This group of crazy lizards work with me at the hospital," said Kesson as he gestured to the group of young male and female reptilian humanoids. As they all walked towards Rhinon's Central Park, Kesson smiled and whispered in Tyson's ear. These females are in prime incubation and are ready for some male companionship, if you know what I mean. Tai-san shook his head in amusement as he smiled back at his friend. With twilight setting in over the city, the crowd of Ellipsonians heading to the ceremony had grown immensely from what Tai-san observed earlier. Entering the park, the group tried to get as close to the main platform as possible. The drinking of Hirosian blood wine and consumption of the highly psychedelic Rikonsan mushrooms had already started in this massive crowd of Ellipsons. The real party would occur after the ceremony was complete. One of Kessen's workmates pushed herself in close to Tai-san and seductively looked up into his eyes as she growled softly. Aroused from this overt gesture, Tai-san tried his best to subdue his inner animalistic impulses. High shrieking and hissing sounds came from near the main platform area as the huge ceremonial bonfire was lit, and huge flames began to dance in the air. A loud roar sounded from the crowd as everyone anticipated what was coming next. A short while later, a young female came out onto the main stage above and behind the roaring bonfire. As the young female from the Subon class walked towards the high priest standing at the middle of the upper stage, the massive crowd began to make loud growling noises and sharp shrieking sounds. Feeling detached from all this crazy activity, Tai-san was amazed at how out of control the Herasan faction's citizens got at these yearly events. Once the young female reached center stage, she stopped close to the stage's edge and bowed her head. There was total silence as the high priest, dressed in an elaborate ceremonial gown of red with gold trim, pulled a long staff outfitted with a glistening blade out from behind his back. He raised the weapon up over his head. Within seconds, the razor-sharp instrument swung down towards the neck of the young female dressed in a white robe. Her head was swiftly detached from her body. The head and body of this young sacrifice to the Ellipsan gods dropped into the huge fire as roars and shrieks from the crowd erupted at even higher decibels than before. Feeling shocked from the same display he had witnessed countless times, Tai-san shouted over the noise of the crowd to Kessen that he did not feel well and was going back to his flat. "But the real fun is just about to start, and she is ready to mate," Kessen yelled out as Tai-san weaved his way out through the throng of bloodthirsty spectators. Almost to the street, Tai-san stopped to observe two male Herasan citizens squaring off with knives drawn on each other and mouths opened wide, showing the natural razor-sharp teeth, common to all Ellipsonians. Soon, loud growling from each of the males rang out, as the crowd around them created a circle of open space for them to attack each other in. Knowing that another death was likely tonight, Tai-san veered around the mob and the ensuing fight that would most likely end in demise for one of the combatants. Finally reaching the street, Tai-san heard the crowd's bloodthirsty screams from behind as they cheered on the fighters. The hecatomb ritual always brings out our animalistic nature. I used to be one of those screaming insane spectators. Perhaps the new path I'm on is related to these new thoughts I have about all the senseless violence my people seem to enjoy. Maybe this began when I started reading those old texts, Tai-san contemplated, as he continued his walk back to the apartment. Thinking back a couple solar cycles, Tai-san remembered the first time he read online about some ancient texts that were discovered just 10 years before in a remote cave on the Elutasan faction's eastern seaboard. Due to the nature of this material, the leadership of the Elutasan faction secreted away the ancient texts. The writings deciphered revealed new thoughts so profound and different from how Ellipsan's current social structure and caste system operated. Elutasan leaders feared it might create chaos and affect their own positions within the current social structure. Finding the material profound and illuminating, one of the scholars assigned to decode the writings secretly copied all the text and fled from the Elutasan secret facility. Almost 1 year later, the entire ancient text writings were uploaded onto the subnet, and made available to anyone who could access this secret underlying network that ran under all networks on Ellipsan. While this subnet was used mainly for outlawed activities, it was also a place where subversive information on the Ellipsan caste system could be found. Always curious, Tai-san stumbled on these ancient texts after he found a way to access the subnet. While his intent was just to see what was on this secret online network, Tae-san came across the mystic docs purely by accident. Briefly reading through the introduction, he was about to move on with his searching when something inside told him to read further. After reading the ancient writings for another 30 minutes, something clicked and he was hooked on the enlightening information before him. Over the next 6 months, Tae-san studied the mystic docs and began to meditate as it was explained in the powerful scripts. Now 2 solar cycles later, he was finding it harder and harder to agree with the current social structure on Ellipsan. With all the memories and thoughts swirling around inside his head, Tae-san almost walked by the main door to his flat. Why does that spectacle bother me so much anymore? I need to do something to take my mind off what I saw tonight, thought Tae-san as he walked into his apartment. Soon Tae-san was logged into the subnet. I don't feel like studying the text tonight. What else can I check out? Ran through his mind as he typed alternatives for caste system in the search engine. At the top of the search engine page was a link called the United Commons Project. Even though he was logged into one of the most secure networks on Ellipsan, Tae-san still hesitated for a moment before clicking on the link. He knew with certainty that if anyone found out about this search, he could face prison or worse. Soon the UCP site loaded and came up on his screen. Tae-san saw an image of many hands touching a globe that represented his home planet Ellipsan. Under the image were the words, "Hey, fellow truth seeker. You have stopped at the right place. Follow us down the angular hole and see where it might lead. Is it possible to counter an unfair system that caters to the elite born? Can the rest of us matter and thrive, or are we all just destined to die as we were born?" The United Commons Project was created out of the minds of individuals who have thirsted for fairness and hope for a better united future that values everyone regardless of their status in this world. If this sounds like you, please keep reading. Intrigued, Tae-san continued reading the information presented on the unique and interesting site. After reading most of the material shown on the first few pages, he decided to join the online forum so he could interact with other like-minded souls. Once he had signed up for the UCP group, he realized how late it was getting, so he logged off the subnet and prepared for bed. Lying in bed, Tae-san's mind was running wild as he pondered all the new thoughts presented on the UCP site. Those concepts are amazing. I will dig into them further tomorrow night, and maybe even interact with others on the forum. It will be morning soon and I need to get some rest before work, Tae-san thought as he worked to clear his mind using the techniques he had learned from the mystic docs. The loud ringing of the alarm jarred Tae-san awake. Fushing alarm, he cussed as he frantically worked to shut it off. Going to work on just 3 hours of sleep is going to be torture, thought Tae-san as he started to get ready. After a quick breakfast of cricket hash and Dinarius eggs, Tae-san finished getting his things together before dashing out the door to get to the shuttle stop on time. The jarring movement forward as the shuttle came to a quick stop at the Space Command research facility woke the young reptilian humanoid up from a deep sleep. Disembarking with the rest of his co-workers, Tae-san made his way to the Weapons Research and Development branch of SCR. While still just a junior-level engineer, Tae-san started to make a name for himself at the weapons branch. Over the last couple solar cycles, he had really begun to tap into his inner creativity and problem-solving skills, and upper management was beginning to recognize this. Just the week before, his direct superior came up to Tae-san and slapped him on the back. If you continue this good work we are seeing, you are in line to make mid-level engineer in a couple more solar cycles. Tae-san loved working with technology, but he wished he could use his talents for something more beneficial than just finding better ways to destroy things. He was currently working on upgrades to the original weapons systems that had been reverse-engineered after the crash of the alien vessel so many years ago. Along with projectile missile launchers that could level a mountain, the ion laser cannon was almost ready for testing. This extremely powerful laser used the volatile helasan gas as its base medium. Due to the explosive nature of helasan gas in its natural form, the gas had to be supercooled and contained in special cylinders encased in pallacine metal to keep the substance neutralized until it was injected into the laser chamber. The destructive power of the extremely small samples used for testing at the lab made Tae-san wonder what a full-scale weapon might be capable of. Looking over the most recent test results on his monitor, Tae-san's direct superior came over to him and said, "You need to report to the Mission Supreme right away. Be sure to report back here when you are done. We need to start the dichometer calibrations as soon as possible." With those words, Tae-san immediately headed up to the top floor to see SCR's Director of Operations. One did not ever keep the Mission Supreme waiting. "I wonder what this is about? I feel my work has been good. I hope no one has found out about my subnet searches," worried Tae-san as he entered the elevator to the top floor of the facility. While the SCR facility was clean and organized, the immaculate and ostentatious top floor held all the office and meeting spaces for the upper management personnel. Hesitantly walking over to the receptionist area, he managed to squeak out, "I am Tae-san Ida. The Mission Supreme called for my presence." "Yes, sit over there. I'll let the Mission Supreme know you are here," directed the foreboding assistant, as she pointed towards some small chairs against the wall. The next 30 minutes Tae-san waited to be called felt like an eternity. He was truly worried at this point, and feared guards showing up any minute to escort him from the facility and into the arms of the Herasan authorities. "Mr. Ida, you may enter the Mission Supreme's office now," called out the receptionist. Knocking on the large Hulusian wood door, Tae-san heard the loud gruff words, "Come in," from behind the door. As was the case for most of the upper elite, the Mission Supreme was large and powerful looking. "Sit down. I have an assignment for you," spoke the Director of Operations as he motioned for Tae-san to sit in the small chair across from his huge desk. Feeling somewhat relieved, Tae-san immediately took a seat in the small and uncomfortable chair. "While you are a young reptile, I have been hearing good things concerning your work in the weapons branch. As you know, we are almost ready for final testing of the ion laser cannon. Due to your good work, young age and growing talents, I would like you to be part of our next deep orbit mission to complete final testing on the ILC. Go back to your direct report and inform him of my order, then immediately report to Mission Control to start deep space training protocols. We plan to launch in 2 weeks, so expect long hours and grueling work until we launch," commanded the Mission Supreme. Tae-san barely mouthed, "Yes sir," before he was rushed out the door by the director. Croatia, capital city of Eurotopia. Arriving at the Lavishin restaurant, Rashella spied her handsome husband with a well-trimmed beard, talking it up with the pretty bartender. Coming up behind Saisoro, she wrapped her arms around him and joked, "I see yet another woman has been entertained by your wit and charm. My love, you know my heart and soul will always be yours," Saisoro said as he turned around and gave his wife a passionate kiss. "Please let me introduce you to my new friend Janasuria," said Saisoro as he gestured to the bartender. "It is such an honor and pleasure to meet you, Madam Counselor." The young bartender held out her hand towards Rashella. "It is my pleasure as well, Janasuria. My husband is selective on whom he calls a friend, so I know you must be special," Rashella said as she smiled at the bartender and shook her hand. Just then, the head waiter came over to Rashella and Saisoro and informed them their table was ready. Rashella could barely contain her excitement, as they both ordered drinks and their favorite entrees. "I've seen that look before. What is it you wish to share with me?" Unable to hold it in any longer, Rashella began to tell Saisoro all about her day, and the offer to join the maiden voyage. As his wife enthusiastically recounted the details of her day, Saisoro stared at his attractive wife and thought to himself how lucky he was. With her darker complexion and full lips, Rashella's face was indeed a sight to behold, but it was her eyes that truly set her apart. With already stunning eyes of blue and green pigmentation, the color would turn a breathtaking teal with the right lighting and mood. Are you even listening to me, love? I am for sure. Can't a man admire his amazing partner? Smiling back at her husband, Rashella said, I'm not sure I can go on such a journey without you. I will miss you immensely while you are away, but this opportunity is just too important to pass up, replied Cicero. Besides, you truly deserve this, and I'm sure everyone feels the same way. From day one you have been instrumental in making this special part of Eurotopia's history come to fruition. Your endearing personality and natural charm have been vital in ensuring all parties continue to work together harmoniously on this massive project, for both the Andosian and Eurotopian people. Not to mention you're extremely intelligent and beautiful. Flattery will get you everything, said Rashella as she put her hands on top of Cicero's and gave him a flirtatious look. Thank you for being so supportive. Let's eat quickly so we can go home and expand upon this already fabulous evening. No argument here, replied Cicero. Smiling to herself as she awoke next her partner and lover, Rashella rose from another restful night's sleep. A wonderful feeling came over her as she remembered the ecstasy of last night's union with Cicero. Like what had occurred many other times in their lovemaking, their mutual passion resulted in a simultaneous orgasm between them that created a mind-to-mind connection with themselves and the universal mind of all that is. The love felt during this connection was deeper and stronger than either of them could ever experience on their own, and it created a bond of love with all creation. As she looked down at her sleeping lover, Rashella began to remember her childhood and the incredible bond she developed with another special love in her life. As she was told later by her adoptive parents, baby Rashella had been left in the reception area of the Child Foster Care Organization headquarters for the UCE. With no parents found through DNA records, she was placed with a special couple who truly loved her and always treated her as their own. When Rashella turned 10 years of age, she was introduced to a strikingly beautiful woman who called herself Rashella. For some reason, Rashella felt an immediate connection with this beautiful and charming woman right from the start. Her parents showed much love and respect for this fascinating woman as well. While Rashella usually only stayed for short periods of time, she almost always stayed with Rashella and her parents at their home when she came. With her parents' approval, Rashella began to teach Rashella from the ancient wisdom texts that had originally been found by Eurotopia's early inhabitants. While most of these esoteric writings were explained to the original tribes of Eurotopia, there were some writings that were not translated or explained. More will be shown when the time is right, was the reply from the Ancient Ones when these secret teachings were asked about by the tribal leaders at the time. As Rashella entered her teen years and showed a great grasp of the ancient wisdom handed down to her ancestors, Rashella began to instruct Rashella from the secret teachings. Along with her tutelage surrounding the ancient wisdom, Rashella also began to teach Rashella how to use her body as a weapon, and as a platform for utilizing the advanced knowledge she was learning. By the time Rashella turned 18, she had grown so fond of Rashella that she considered her a second mother. It was extremely upsetting to Rashella when Rashella told her she must leave for an extended period of time. Please don't leave, exclaimed Rashella after hearing the news. We will see each other again, dear one, assured Rashella as she held a crying Rashella in her arms. Although her heart was broken, Rashella was reassured by her parents that everything would be okay, and she would see the beautiful Rashella again. As Rashella continued her education at university, her anguish of missing Rashella dissipated. She soon became fully involved with being a popular student with many friends. With the memory of Rashella once again on her mind, Rashella decided to go for a walk in the park. She quickly dressed as Cicero started to wake. Going to the park, love. Maybe we can have breakfast together when I get back, Rashella called out to her groggy husband as she headed towards the bedroom door. The morning air felt wonderful in her lungs as Rashella walked briskly through the park. As the birds sang their songs, she was feeling very connected to the natural surroundings of lush vegetation, vibrant flowers and magnificent trees swaying in the light breeze. All the wonderful memories of Rashella came back to Rashella as she walked along the trail. "I so miss her and wish she could be here now before I leave for this upcoming journey," thought Rashella as she contemplated those amazing times with Rashella when she was younger. Walking past a park bench, Rashella was slightly startled as she heard the words, "It is so wonderful to see you again, dear one," come from the cloaked woman sitting on the bench. "Is that really you?" cried Rashella as she stopped and ran towards the woman at the park bench. "It is I, dear one. I have so missed you," said Rashella as she pulled the hoodie back covering her head and rose from the bench to hug Rashella. "This is so unbelievable. I have been thinking about you all morning. This cannot be a coincidence. How did you know I would be here?" asked Rashella as she embraced her special mentor from so long ago. "I always know where you are. Your thoughts drew me here as well," the still beautiful Rashella responded. "It's been over 15 years and you haven't changed at all. Where have you been all this time?" questioned Rashella. "I am so sorry it has been so long since I had to leave. My task turned out to be long and arduous. I am so happy to have the opportunity to hold you in my arms again." Rashael's eyes began to change to a very unique, bright teal color. "Your eyes, their color is very similar to what happens to my eyes sometimes. That is because we both share a very unique bond. Can you stay for a while? Sisoro would love to meet you. I have told him so much about you. I would love to meet your husband, but duty calls to me again, and you have preparations to make before your upcoming journey. Perhaps I can come stay for a while once you have returned from this maiden voyage." "That would be incredible. But how did you know I was leaving on a journey? Do you not remember your teachings, dear one? Much is possible in this reality we share. I have to admit I haven't been studying or practicing much since you left. I did just start studying the ancient texts again. I had a strange event happen in my mind only a few days ago that made me want to revisit those ancient writings and the knowledge they contain. I know of the event you describe. It is another reason I am here now. The entity that spoke to you in your mind is powerful and wise. Can you tell me more about this mysterious voice I heard in my head?" "I cannot right now, but all will be revealed in time." Rashella looked solemnly at Rashella. "This adventure you are embarking on may have elements of danger. Can you tell me what that danger may be?" exclaimed a somewhat startled Rashella. "I cannot tell you for sure if and what that danger may be. I just wanted you to be aware. Please continue studying the ancient texts before you embark on this maiden voyage. Especially concentrate on the secret teachings. I'm not sure I can access those special teachings you instructed me on so long ago. You can always access those special teachings. Just center your mind and ask for them to be revealed." "I so missed you," exclaimed Rashella as she once again hugged Rashella tightly. "As I have missed you too. Seeing you in the physical brings me so much joy and love once more," replied Rashella as she held Rashella tightly. "I am so sorry, dear one, but it is time I departed. We will see each other soon." Rashella released her hold on Rashella and began to walk away. Saddened, Rashella dropped her head and cried softly for a few seconds. When she lifted her head back up, she found that Rashella was gone. "So she was actually there at the park?" asked Sisoro. "Yes, it was so amazing to see her again. She looked exactly like she did 15 years ago. She may stay with us for a while once I'm back from this maiden voyage." "That would be wonderful. I know how much you have missed her. Let us spend as much time together as possible the next couple days. My pre-flight training starts in 2 days, and there will be so much to learn and do for the next few weeks. That sounds like a wonderful plan. Perhaps we can even spend some more nights together like last night, Cicero said as he smiled alluringly at his attractive wife. The next couple days went by quickly, as Rashella and Cicero experienced all their favorite sights and activities together in the great city of Croatia. As the crown jewel of the United Commons of Eurotopia, Croatia had it all. Home to numerous centers for higher learning and creative pursuits, the creative endeavors of its inhabitants shone brightly throughout the great city. Incredible displays of amazing works of art adorned the city, and the technologies enjoyed by its people were unmatched anywhere on Eurotopia. As was the case throughout Eurotopia, all creations and technological advances were built with the shared resources of all her people. In place from early in its development, mediums of exchange did not exist on Eurotopia. Using the knowledge of the ancient wisdom writings and their own ingenuity, the Eurotopian people had created a united commons that shared all resources on the planet, and gave all Eurotopians a very high standard of living. Without the need to work to survive, each Eurotopian could choose to spend their time doing the activities that best suited their talents and desires. Due to this unique social and economic system, Eurotopia and her people thrived with almost no impact on the planet's biosphere. Incorporating systems to track all resources, long-term plans and developments were always in line with what was best for the planet and its inhabitants. In accord with what had been spoken in Rashella's head that night at the restaurant, Eurotopia and her incredible social and economic systems were indeed an amazing example of the power of united minds working together on common goals. Sharing drinks on the terrace of the Porretaria Lounge, Rashella and Cicero reminisced about the wonderful adventures they had experienced the last couple days. Every time we do something like this, I am reminded again how amazing the Eurotopian people are, exclaimed Rashella as she looked out upon the dazzling city below. As do I, my dear, said Cicero while lovingly touching his wife's luscious black hair. This newest event in Eurotopia's astounding history will become yet another chapter in a long line of accomplishments for this world we call home. I feel so honored to be a part of that, Rashella said as she continued to admire the city below. It is so heartwarming to experience this special time with you, and I can't wait to experience the tales you will share when you return, Cicero said as he too looked out over the lit-up city from the 40th floor terrace. Rhinan, capital city of Herasan. The mission supreme had been correct when he told Tyson the next 2 weeks were going to be grueling. Each day training started early in the morning and was not complete until well after solar set time. Due to the long hours at mission control, he had just a little time each night to peruse the United Commons project website, to learn more about this unique social system theory. While the rest of his fellow trainees took full advantage of the little time off each night to party and hang out with friends, Tyson was so enamored with this new social construct that he could barely wait to dig into the material when he finally got back to his flat each night. What really struck Tyson was how much the UCP material incorporated ideas from the Mystic Docs teachings. In fact, the Mystic Docs were mentioned numerous times throughout the website. Instead of a constant battling over the scarce resources on Ellipsan, the UCP proposed that each faction share their resources and technology with each other, for the mutual benefit of everyone on the planet. The Herasan leadership will never agree to share the alien technologies, thought Tyson as he read that portion of the material. The UCP material also talked about how a proper system of monitoring and sharing of resources could help maintain a healthy ecosystem throughout Ellipsan. The current reality on Ellipsan was one where the planet was feeling the effects of the constant wars and unending technological development, with little regard for the planet and its people. While once a planet with lush vegetation and almost unlimited water resources, The unending wars between the factions had eroded the biosphere to the point where the once life-giving solar energies were now destroying the ecosystem due to the intense solar radiation that now bombarded the planet. Due to the ever-eroding biosphere, the planet's surface was becoming more and more hostile to life. The UCP material proposed ways for repairing the damaged ecosystem through the sharing of technologies and knowledge obtained from the wonderful minds behind the development of current technologies, and future ones conceived through collaborative efforts across the planet. Along with finding ways to share finite resources, one of the main tenets of this new social system was the belief that everyone deserved to be treated the same, and the current class system on Ellipsan should be abolished. This principle of equality for all was in fact in direct agreement with the underlying doctrine of oneness of all that was taught throughout the mystic Doc's text. Those ancient writings discovered in that cave continuously talked about how everyone and everything is connected to the same source. Separation was just a concept developed by the finite beings who dwelt within the vastness of all creation. The mystic Doc's writings claimed that this separation was an illusion, and all creation was unified and as one at its core. If only we could all understand this connection to everyone and everything, what a wonderful world it could be. There would be no need to sacrifice our fellow Ellipsans due to fear of some external god or gods. All the current strife and destruction in this world caused by our misunderstanding of true reality could be eliminated, thought Tyson as he pondered the words before him. I will fully immerse myself in these new ideals once I return from this mission, vowed Tyson as he logged off the subnet and began to prepare for bed. It was still dark as Tyson sat sleepily in his seat of the transport shuttle, as it zoomed along towards the SCR facility. The launch of the Hydroson-class starship and its crew was scheduled for the next day. It's going to be a very busy day. I should not have stayed up so late again, he thought, as the shuttle came to an abrupt stop at the main SCR terminal. Once off the shuttle, Tyson headed straight to the starship to help with final inspections and calibrations of the weapon systems. While a majority of the calibration and engineering tools were already aboard and stored away, he helped his fellow engineering crew members bring on the remaining equipment. Once all equipment was stored and set up in the engineering space, final diagnostic test and calibrations were performed on the ion laser cannon. By midday, the engineering crew and other SCR technical staff completed all final tests and calibrations on the Helasan gas-powered laser. After going over all the testing and calibration results, Engineering Head Commander Wysan called out to his crew and staff, "Excellent work on getting this part of the mission accomplished. Our captain would like to speak to the crew later this afternoon. Everyone has until then to finish getting their personal details in order. Report to the SCR auditorium by 1600. Departing the massive starship parked outside the even larger hangar bay building, most of the crew and SCR technical support personnel started walking towards the shuttle transport to the city. Lizan spotted Tyson and quickly walked up beside him. Hey Tyson, it has been a while since we went for a soak. How about some lunch at the Rocherian Cafe and a soak in the cave pools? I need to talk with my building manager, but the pools do sound like a good idea. Let me take care of my apartment stuff and I'll meet you at the cafe in about an hour, Tyson replied to his co-worker. Once back at his apartment building, Tyson showed the building manager his official mission duty paperwork and told her he should be back in approximately 30 days. With good living space at a premium, this notification was a requirement so that the space wasn't given away to someone else while he was away. Once Tyson completed his task with the building manager and packed some personal items for the voyage, he headed out the door of his flat and to the street to meet Lizan and some other co-workers at the cafe. Hey Tyson, over here, called out Lizan as he motioned for Tyson to join him and other co-workers from SCR. This insectillion stew and Tolacro wine is amazing. I took the liberty of ordering you some. I hope you don't mind, said Lizan as Tyson approached the table. It looks and smells awesome. "Thanks," replied Tyson as he acknowledged his other fellow co-workers. "So, wasn't the hecatomb ritual just incredible this year? That poor lizard didn't fare too well in that fight after, but it was a good show," exclaimed one of the other co-workers at the table. Tyson just nodded solemnly as he recalled the spectacles from that night at the park. "Didn't you just think it was all so grand and spectacular?" asked another co-worker. "I suppose so. I was not feeling so well that night, so I left early," answered Tyson. "Well, you missed an incredible time. The blood wine and mushrooms were in abundance, for sure. The whole event really got me aroused. I must have copulated with a half-dozen males that night," laughed one of the females at the table. With lunch over, Tyson and Lizanne headed to the soaking caves to take in a little relaxation before heading back to the SCR facility. After soaking in the cool water of the cave pools for a while, Lizanne spoke quietly to Tyson. "I can see you are struggling with the hecatomb ritual and other aspects of the ellipsan world these days. I'm concerned that you could face a bad fate if these thoughts of yours continue." "I appreciate your concern, Lizanne, and I hope I can count on you to not say anything. You are more than just a co-worker to me. I really care about you," said Lizanne as he gently put his hand on Tyson's leg. While the feeling of Lizanne's touch felt somewhat strange to Tyson, he could not ignore how aroused he became as well. "This is indeed a surprising feeling I'm having. I may need to pursue this further when I get back," thought Tyson as he put his hand on top of Lizanne's hand. Not wanting to engage any further at that time, Tyson got up from the pool and said, "Well, I believe we should probably start heading back to work." "Yes, I suppose you are right," replied a startled Lizanne before he too rose from the cool water. The auditorium was already filling up as Tyson arrived and found a seat. At precisely 1600, a very tall and large ellipsan male in a captain's uniform came out on the stage. The sight of such an opposing figure on the street would give most pause. Here on stage he appeared larger than life. After the captain's entrance on stage, all crew members in the audience stood up and bowed their heads slightly in respect and fear. Captain Criterson motioned for everyone to sit back down. He looked out over the ship's crew. "As everyone here knows, we are scheduled to depart Ellipsan tomorrow morning. I wanted to address the crew and impress upon everyone how important our upcoming mission is. Our journey to the stars has been a grand one, and we are already becoming a force in the galaxy. The successful deployment of the ion laser cannon will secure our place among the stars, and the Ellipsan people will be revered throughout the galaxy." "More like feared throughout the galaxy," thought Tyson as he reluctantly clapped along with the rest of the crew. The simple truth was that Ellipsonian starships were already being watched by other races within the galaxy. Avoidance of any encounter with this warlike race was always preferred over contact. Those spacefaring races who did try to initiate contact were almost always met with hostile intent from any Ellipsan spacecraft they encountered. Captain Criterson continued his speech to the crew. "Once the ILC has been successfully tested, we will leave our solar system and embark on a journey to the Kilipson star system to search for a possible source of Helasan gas material. While the current plan is for a 30-day round trip, this could change depending on what is encountered. Make sure you are all aboard and ready for liftoff at 0600. May our journey be glorious." As the captain walked to the back of the stage exit area, everyone once again rose and bowed to their commanding officer. "Supreme Leader, we have secured the young males and females along with the food and drink you requested in your quarters," shyly spoke one of the captain's assistants. "Excellent, make sure there is plenty of Riconson shrooms in my cabin as well," barked Captain Criterson as he strode away. Leaving the auditorium with the rest of his crewmates, Tyson overheard many of them talk about their evening plans. "This is our last opportunity to drink, party and secure some companionship before we leave. I'll see you lizards at the club," exclaimed one of the male crew members as he hurriedly headed toward the main shuttle transport area. Boarding the shuttle, Tai-san's plan for the last evening before departure was not going to be as exciting as some of his fellow crewmates. He planned to log onto the subnet to chat with and say goodbye to some of his newfound friends on the United Commons Project online forum. Back at the starship, the captain entered his spacious cabin and looked alluringly at his young guests. "You are all so splendid to look at. Do take off those clothes and relax. I will be back shortly." The large reptilian humanoid went back to his sleeping quarters to remove his uniform and don his Tolasan silk robe. At precisely 0700, an announcement came over the shipboard speakers: "The captain has ordered that everyone prepare for takeoff." Within minutes, the starship began to rise from the tarmac outside the hangar bay. Tai-san had never been off-planet before. He felt somewhat nervous as the craft began its ascent. Even with the anti-grav system engaged, everyone aboard could feel the influence of Ellipsen's powerful gravitational pull as the starship accelerated towards space. Once the spacecraft had left the planet's ionosphere, the gravitational pull of Ellipsen released its grip, and the ship's artificial intelligence immediately switched off the anti-grav system and engaged the shipboard gravitation gyrospatial core. As was the case with most deep spacefaring vessels, the GGC was critical in ensuring all crew members felt a sense of normal planet gravity as the starship moved through space. Located deep within the core of most starships, the GGC used multiple rotating magnetized flywheels that moved in rotating arcs against each other like a gyroscope. With precise tuning, the effect of the immensely fast magnetized movements of the flywheels created an artificial gravity wave that radiated out from the central core. For short periods of time, the polarity of the GGC could be reversed to create an anti-gravity effect. Ellipsen quickly became smaller and smaller in the rearview display as Captain Kritosen ordered the helmsman to engage the impulse ion drive and navigate to one of solar planet Junison's 6 moons. As the ship flew at 12,000 knots towards Junison, Tai-san and the rest of his engineering crewmates began preparing the ion laser cannon for its first engagement, utilizing full power. Within the hour, the starship had reached the moon called Tito Croc. "Maintain geosynchronous orbit, and tell me when we are approaching the Colosan range," ordered the captain. Soon, the spacecraft stabilized in orbit approximately 50 miles above Tito Croc's equator. Captain Kritosen toggled the communicator on the captain's chair. "Engineering, are we ready for weapons testing?" "Aye, Captain. All weapon systems ready for use at your command," replied Commander Wysan over the communicator. "Colosan range in 2 minutes, sir," called out the helmsman. "Target the second mountain and fire the PML when in range," commanded the captain. "Missile lock on, Captain." "Engage PML," shouted an excited Captain Kritosen. Within seconds, the Turin matter-based missile shot from the starship and precisely hit its target. The mid-range size mountain was completely obliterated from the ignition of the Turin matter at impact. "Excellent, I so much like to see and feel the power of our weapons," exclaimed the captain as he gleefully watched the destruction. The captain got up from his seat and stared towards the main display. "Prepare the ILC. We will engage once we are in position." As the spacecraft orbited the moon's equator, the engineering crew once again ensured all weapon diagnostics on the ion laser cannon were normal, and the Helasan fuel cells were fully loaded. "In range in 2 minutes, Captain," sounded the helmsman as the starship once again approached the Colosan range. "Target the entire mountain range and fire the ILC on my command," shouted the captain. As soon as the giant view screen showed target lock, Captain Kritosen issued the command to fire the weapon. Violent blue and white light shot out of the weapons bay of the starship. The destruction was massive as the laser raced across the Colosan mountain range. Within seconds, the entire Colosan range was completely disintegrated by the incredible power of the laser cannon. "That was more incredible than I imagined," cried out the giddy captain. "I must let Central Command know about the results. I'm going to my quarters." "Do not disturb me until we have all data from the test," shouted Captain Kritoson. He turned and headed to the bridge elevator. A while later, Commander Wysan timidly signaled his presence outside the captain's quarters. "Who is there?" barked Captain Kritoson over the intercom. "It's Commander Wysan, sir. I have the test results." "Excellent, come inside, Commander," ordered the captain. The entryway to the cabin slid open and the commander walked in. Commander Wysan held his tongue as he witnessed the captain and two young civilians engaging in the last acts of sexual intercourse. "Sit down, Commander. We are almost done," yelled Captain Kritoson. He started grunting from his final thrusts into the backside of the male while the naked female stroked her private area and dug sharp fingernails into the captain's back with her other hand. Trying to ignore the spectacle he was observing, the commander heard screams and grunts from the threesome. Then sighs as they all laid back on the floor. After what seemed like an infinity of time for the commander, the captain got up from the floor and put on his robe. "So, Commander, what were the test results?" asked Captain Kritoson as he sat down next to the commander. "The devastation from the laser strike was greater than anticipated, sir. Most of the mountain range has been completely atomized from the heat and power of the laser." Sensing something more, the captain asked his chief engineer, "So what is it, Commander? You are not telling me everything." Fearing the captain's wrath from any bad news, Commander Wysan began to dreadfully speak. "The Helasan fuel used was more than anticipated. Based on the rate of consumption seen during this test, we will deplete most of our current fuel stores in a short amount of time. That is unacceptable. This weapon will make us the most feared race in the galaxy, but that will not matter if we can't use it," yelled the captain as he threw his wineglass against the wall. "While our access to Helasan is limited in our own solar system, recent scans from some of our scouting vessels indicate a possible source of Helasan in the Damion quadrant," spoke Commander Wysan as he winced from the captain's rampage. "Very well. I will have navigation bring up the results from those scans and plot a course towards that destination. In the meantime, have your crew begin build on a larger containment cylinder for any Helasan we might find." The captain got up and headed towards his sleeping chambers. He said over his shoulder, "You can go now, Commander." Commander Wysan nodded before hurriedly leaving the captain's cabin and heading back to engineering. Meanwhile, back on Eurotopia, Rashella enjoyed the training she received in preparation for Starship One's maiden voyage. With her background in technology, she reveled in learning about all the shipboard systems. With her innate abilities to understand complex technical information combined with a superior intellect, she was able to gain a thorough understanding of all the major shipboard systems that included the theories behind them. The officer who had given the SAG presentation walked over to Rashella, seated up front. "I would love to have you as my first officer, ma'am. Your questions and general knowledge of the ship's engineering systems are amazing," said Engineering Chief Commander Suzanne. "Why, thank you, Commander Suzanne. I am honored. Your SAG systems lecture was fascinating. The system is truly remarkable. Based on all I've heard and seen these last 2 weeks, I can tell these ship systems are in good hands," Rashella replied. Indeed, the technology surrounding the shielding array generator was extraordinary. The SAG consisted of a massive quantity of individual arrays, built right behind the ship's outer hull. Each array had a Tolitech crystal as its central component that was tuned to a specific frequency. A complex algorithm was employed to link all the radiating crystals. When the different energies and frequencies from the Tolitech crystals combined, they created an extremely powerful force field effect that radiated out from the ship's hull and formed an oval-shaped energy shield that surrounded the starship. Eurotopian scientists and engineers developed the SAG system to allow close observation of Eurotopia's sun. Due to the rigors of deep space travel and the unknown conditions that might arise, Fleet Command insisted on the development of an even more powerful SAG systems for its deep space vessels. Captain Pikeson entered Fleet Command's training auditorium. Everyone in the room quieted down and acknowledged his presence. The captain walked up to the lectern and looked out over the group. I hope everyone has acquired a better understanding of all of the various shipboard systems through these excellent lessons and hands-on training from Commander Suzanne and his staff. As a member of the crew, it is vital that each crewmate have a thorough understanding of all systems utilized on the spacecraft. Regardless of current duties, each one of you might be asked to assume further responsibilities as conditions dictate. As all of you are aware, Starship One is scheduled for departure in 2 days. I ask that you all take the next 2 days to get your affairs in order. Please report to Fleet Command's shuttle transport station at 0700 hours on Solar Day 1. Thank you all, and we'll see everyone in a couple days. As everyone started to leave the auditorium, Captain Pikeson waved at Rashella and gestured for her to come over. Rashella walked over to the captain and smiled. Madam Counselor, I hope the training has been informative. It has indeed, Captain. Excellent. I again just wanted to let you know how happy we all are that you accepted our invitation to join us on this maiden voyage. I do not suspect there is much of anything that would stop me from joining you and your crew at this point, Captain. I find the thought of exploring deep space fascinating. I feel very honored to be a part of such a grand journey. Madam Counselor, your role in bringing this new development in Eurotopia's history to fruition has benefited all of Eurotopia and her people. With that said, we have reserved a private cabin for you on the ship. I truly appreciate the gesture, but I am more than fine sharing a space. Nonsense. You are a cherished guest. I look forward to seeing you again in 2 days. Captain Pikeson shook Rashella's hand while bowing slightly in respect, before turning to address a question from Commander Suzanne. After chatting a while with some of her fellow students and upcoming crewmates, Rashella headed to the transport area to board a sky transport to her residence in the city. Let's go to Allurian Lake and Magnificent Falls, shouted Rashella to her husband as she walked into the condo. That sounds splendid, love. We can leave first thing in the morning on the high-speed rail and arrive just in time for lunch at the Illusion Cafe. I will start working on the arrangements now, responded Cicero as he hugged his wife and gave her a passionate kiss. The idea just came to me as I was flying over here. What better place to spend our last couple days together for a while? I couldn't agree more. I will book us a suite in the Royalton Hotel. Then we will be walking distance from the lake and falls. You are so good to me. I have some last-minute details to take care of. Maybe we can watch some virtual theater later, said Rashella as she headed into the bedroom to change into more comfortable clothes. Walking into her study, Rashella called out to her AI assistant, Grace, please message all co-counselors my notes and suggestions concerning the Space Commons initiative and inform them I would like to schedule a time to discuss possible implementation of this action when I return. Also, please bring up all volumes of the sacred texts and all my notes and thoughts from current research on it. As Rashella perused the information on the desk monitors, she began to have a memory flashback of a special time with Rashelle. Today, dear one, I would like to introduce you to some special powers that are possible with practice and dedication, said Rashelle as she placed a white crystal on the glass table in the backyard of Rashella's childhood home. Both Rashella and Rashelle stood about 20 feet from the table. Rashelle closed her eyes briefly before opening them to stare at the crystal. Within seconds, the crystal started to change colors and radiate light in all directions. Soon the crystal's color changed to a magnificent shade of violet and white light. The vibrations within created an almost angelic choir of sounds. Once the crystal returned to its natural form, Rashella looked at Rashelle with amazement. That was beautiful. Can I try? Of course. Just center yourself and then push energy from your core like I have shown you before. While you channel the energy to the crystal, ask the crystal to sing to you. Rashella closed her eyes and emptied her mind of all thoughts. Once her mind was at peace, Rashella opened her eyes and stared at the white crystal. Soon the crystal started to change colors. After stabilizing on a beautiful shade of blue and white light, it started to create a very enjoyable sound. Clearly impressed with Rashella's relative ease in making the crystal sing, Rashella looked at her young apprentice and nodded before saying, "Rashella, I think you are ready to expand on your powers. Tomorrow morning let us take the rail to the wind power turbines south of the city. I have an interesting experiment in mind." "That sounds wonderful, May. I can hardly wait to go," exclaimed Rashella. Riding towards the wind turbines, Rashella felt very content. While most 15-year-old girls preferred spending time with their peers rather than with their parents or other adults, she realized how much she enjoyed her time with Rashella. She cherished the loving bond that had formed between them. Just then, Rashella gave Rashella a big smile as she lovingly touched her arm. Within a short time, they arrived at the wind farm. Disembarking from the train, Rashella took in the fresh morning air as she admired the huge wind turbines in the distance. Standing over 100 feet in the air, these windmills had 4 30-foot blades connected to the main shaft, coming out horizontally towards the top portion of the turbine's vertical platform. Walking hand in hand, Rashella and Rashella made their way towards one of the wind turbines. With the windmill still 50 yards away in the distance, Rashella stopped their walk towards the turbine. "Dear one, as you well know, the power of those spinning blades is quite strong. I would like you to use your natural energy inside to stop the turning blades and make them change direction. One hint for success would be to ask the wind for help as you visualize the blades stopping and turning backwards." Excited to see if she could do it, Rashella quickly centered her mind and began to visualize the huge blades stopping their movement. Within minutes, the massive turbine blades started to slow down. While all the other wind turbines in the area continued spinning powerfully in a clockwise direction, this lone turbine was now completely stopped. With her mind still centered and at peace, Rashella began to visualize the huge blades turning in a counterclockwise motion. Along with her visualization, she also began to calmly ask the wind for help in moving the blades. Within minutes, this giant wind turbine was rotating counterclockwise while all the others still spun in a clockwise direction. Wrapping her arm around Rashella's shoulders, Rashella said, "Excellent, you are a natural at harnessing your powers. Let's head back to the city and get one of your favorite Perotarian dishes to share." "I would love that, May," said Rashella as she looked up at her mentor and smiled deeply. With her thoughts returning to the present, Rashella thought to herself, "It's going to be so wonderful to spend time with May when I get back from the voyage." Riding north out of the city and through the rolling countryside flush with various crops grown for Croatia and the surrounding areas, Rashella marveled at the lush vegetation and trees that displayed themselves in all their beauty from the electric train's cabin window. Nestled against Sishora's chest while sitting in the plush seats of the train, Rashella felt comfortable and extremely loved. Their destination this day was a special place for both Rashella and Sisoro. The small village of Divinia was home to a Lurian lake and the grand Magnificent Falls that kept the lake full year-round. This popular haven in the northern Appalachian Mountains was where Rashella and Sisoro had spent their honeymoon. After a couple hours, the Appalachian mountain range started to come into view out of their cabin window. Some of these spectacular mountains rose from close to sea level to almost 20,000 feet in height. Looking at the wondrous creations, Rashella was once again in awe at their beauty and sheer magnificence as the snow-covered peaks glistened in the sunlight. While most Eurotopians were not religious in the normal sense, each person did feel a deep sense of connection with each other and all life on the planet. For most Eurotopians, all things in existence came from the same source, so the normal separation felt by those in most other races was not how Eurotopians viewed reality. A majority of Eurotopians felt connected to even the smallest creatures or elements they shared their world with. All Eurotopians were taught these truths from an early age, and they were foundational principles that most Eurotopians embraced and upheld. While Eurotopian society was not perfect, the tenets of this all-in-one philosophy created an almost utopian world for the planet's residents. Watching the breathtakingly scenic view of one glorious mountain peak after another go by the window for almost an hour, both Rashella and Cicero became anxious at the prospect of reaching Divinia shortly. Soon, the train's conductor announced the impending arrival at Divinia station, and asked all passengers to prepare for deboarding. Walking off the train to the wonderful smells and sounds of Divinia, Rashella took in the surroundings with awe once more. In all directions, lush colorful flowers and other vegetation were in full bloom. The Chilusian trees were covered in their annual pink and white blossoms. The efflorescence gave the surrounding air in Divinia a special fragrant quality. Walking hand in hand on the magnificent stone walkway towards the Eleusinian Cafe, the love between Rashella and Cicero was quite evident. Laughing over a previous memory of one of their many visits to Divinia, Rashella and Cicero walked into the Eleusinian Cafe to the extraordinary smells emanating from the kitchen. "Oh, I so love the smell of the food here," exclaimed Rashella. "It is definitely making me hungry," agreed Cicero. Hearing of their arrival, the head chef and manager of the restaurant came out to greet the couple. "It is so wonderful to see you again, Madam Counselor and Monsieur Cicero." "It is a pleasure to see you again as well, Chef Dion. We are so looking forward to trying some of your wonderful and delicious creations," said Rashella. She gave the chef a big hug. "I have just created a couple new dishes that I think you both will love," said Chef Dion as he reached out to shake Cicero's hand. "These smells are driving me crazy. How about you make enough for everyone and you and your staff come out and join us when it is ready," Cicero suggested as he anticipated the incredible meal they would soon share. "That sounds splendid. I will have some Candesian wine brought out while you wait," said Chef Dion before he headed back into the kitchen area. Lunch with Chef Dion and his staff was an enjoyable experience of sharing stories and great food among friends. Bidding everyone goodbye, Rashella and Cicero headed out to the Royalton Hotel to freshen up before going to the Magnificent Falls later that evening. A slight warm breeze came from the balmy turquoise waters of Eurotopia Lake. Even though cold mountain water came pouring down into the lake from Magnificent Falls, a subterranean flow of heated water bubbled up into the lake from fissures at its bottom rock crust. Due to this unique geological feature, Eurotopia Lake and the surrounding hot springs in the area provided a relaxing adventure for many Eurotopians through even the colder seasons. As they walked into the front lobby of the Royalton Hotel, the hotelier came over to the couple to greet them. "So good to see you both again. As with everyone who comes to Divinia, your luggage was brought over from the train and delivered to your suite." "Thank you, Marican. You look lovely as always. It is so good to see you again as well. Perhaps we can all get together for drinks later," Rashella said as she shook the hotelier's hand. "My wife is correct. You do look as lovely as ever," agreed Cicero as he kissed the hotelier on her cheek. Their favorite suite had been prepared as Cicero requested when he booked the room. The fireplace was aglow from the burning logs. Thesputan incense was smoldering at various locations in the suite. "Oh, this brings back so many wonderful memories," exclaimed Rashella as she took in the relaxing ambience. "I am glad you like it," said Cicero as he pulled Rashella in close. Within a short time, initial passionate kisses between the two partners turned into a full sexual escapade for the two lovers, as they quickly removed their clothing and began to experience oneness once again as their naked bodies and limbs wrapped around themselves in ecstasy. "You are an incredible lover," whispered Rashella as she gazed lovingly into Cicero's eyes. "You make it so easy," replied Cicero as he ran his hand down Rashella's back and bottom. "Let's take a shower and get ready for our adventure at Magnificent Falls. I can hardly wait to see what colors will be seen tonight," Rashella said as she rose from the bed and headed for the bathroom. "I am right behind you, love. You know I am the best back scrubber on the planet." The night air was still warm as they walked the short distance to Magnificent Falls. Upon arriving at the falls, both Rashella and Cicero were in amazement at the grand spectacle before them. Due to some creative bioengineering, various luminous-colored algae had been bred to cover the smooth, glistening granitian rock in unique patterns that spanned the falls from the very top all the way to the bottom, just before it emptied into a Lurian lake. The colorful glowing nature of the special algae created a spectacular and mesmerizing effect for all who gazed upon it. "I so wish Rashella could be here to see this. I miss her and can't wait to see her soon," Rashella said as she gazed at the immense beauty before her. Just after she spoke, a brilliant radiating globe of shimmering violet and white light began to shine 20 feet away to the right of where they were standing on the walkway. "You told me she was very special, but I suspect Rashella may be more than I imagined," said Cicero as he too watched the shining globe. After a short while, the radiant sphere disappeared. Rashella and Cicero headed back to the hotel for drinks and hors d'oeuvres with the hotel staff. Waking up to sunlight streaming in from the balcony window, the two lovers once again shared themselves with each other and the all that is as their bodies entwined together on the huge bed. After some wonderful hiking on the beautiful trails that ran around the lake and into the foothills beside it, the couple headed back to the high-speed rail to return to Croatia. "I am so going to miss you," said Rashella as she hugged Cicero. "As will I," said Cicero before giving his beautiful wife a long kiss goodbye. Rashella headed up to the skyport on the roof of their building to catch an early morning flight to Fleet Command. While riding the sky transport over the beautiful city below, her thoughts of last night's romantic rapture with Cicero flashed back to her. The smell of her lover as he kissed down her body towards her private area still lingered in her memory. The true love she saw in her husband's eyes as he stared at her while pushing up against her as she thrust down onto his manhood, with legs pushed tightly at his sides, made Rashella shudder all over again. Almost at the brink of orgasm from their intense lovemaking, Rashella remembered one of her final lessons from Rashelle. "Dear one, you are getting to an age where you will begin to truly explore your sexuality. Please always remember that lovemaking is a sacred act performed between two divine beings. The manifestation power generated from consensual sex is an extremely dynamic force that can be used to create almost any desire. To take advantage of this creative power, one should convey their intention to the all that is, right at the time of total release." Still on the verge of orgasm, Rashella sent a powerful thought out to the all that is: "Let this maiden journey be a successful one for Starship One and all her crew. Please continue to guide my thoughts as Eurotopia's fantastic journey progresses into the future." With those last intentions conveyed, Rashella and Cicero began to orgasm together. A smile came to Rashella as she remembered that final release and how special that moment felt. Within minutes, the transport landed at Fleet Command. Rashella was escorted to Starship One's shuttle transport for boarding. Soon, Rashella and other members of Starship One's crew were lifted off the tarmac and flown through the atmosphere and into orbit above Eurotopia. The small craft quickly came upon Starship One parked inside the space dock, and proceeded to maneuver towards the massive ship's shuttle bay area. After the shuttle docked and all passengers deboarded the craft, Rashella was greeted by one of the current onboard crew members and escorted to her private cabin. "We will be departing space dock soon, Madam Counselor. Please remain in your quarters until the captain indicates otherwise." "Is there anything I can get for you?" asked Ensign Rechian before gesturing for Rashella to enter the cabin. "Thank you, Ensign. I know you must have plenty to do right now and I will be fine," said Rashella as she entered her new quarters. As with most personal quarters on the ship, the space was small but efficiently furnished for maximum comfort and usability. She stored her personal belongings away and changed into the one-piece outfit that had been provided for her. Along with the normal living items such as a small bed, closet with storage space, and a small bathroom space, each cabin was also equipped with a desk and console linked to all relevant shipboard systems. Sitting down at the desk, Rashella asked the shipboard artificial intelligence to display the 360-degree view from outside the starship, as it began to slowly maneuver out of the docking station in orbit above Eurotopia. Once the ship had completely moved out of the space dock, the starboard side view revealed an amazing vantage of Eurotopia from approximately 70 miles above its surface. Lush blue, green and brown colors shone brightly as the sun hit Eurotopia's surface. As with most life-giving planets, over 70% of Eurotopia's surface was covered in ocean. Due to constant efforts to keep Eurotopia's atmosphere and oceans clean, this view from over 70 miles above was breathtaking to experience. Amazing shades of blue ocean waters were met with the lush green and brown hues associated with each landmass. Rashella's skin tingled as she watched the magnificent sight of Eurotopia slowly move away on the display. Soon, the giant craft gained speed as the impulse drives engaged and propelled the ship towards some of the solar system's outer planets. Within minutes, Starship 1 was approaching one of Eurotopia's fellow planets called Glorician. While Glorician could not naturally support life like Eurotopia, it was still an enchanting sight to observe. 4 huge multicolored gaseous and rock-littered rings circled Glorician, with each succeeding ring circling the previous ring at approximately a 90-degree angle. The result of this natural phenomenon gave Glorician a gyroscopic effect when viewed from a distance. This is truly extraordinary to watch. I'm so blessed to be a part of this, thought Rashella as she continued to observe the incredible views shown on her display. Just as Glorician started to go out of view, Captain Pikeson came over the shipboard speakers and announced that Starship 1 would be heading back towards the sun to perform some test of the recent upgrades to the ship's shielding array generator. As the ship flew towards the sun, Rashella was notified by the AI in her cabin that someone was at her door. "Please open the door," Rashella called out to the AI. "I hope I'm not disturbing you, Madam Counselor. The captain has requested your presence on the bridge," said Ensign Rechian as she stood just outside the cabin. "You were not disturbing me at all. I would be delighted to go to the bridge," answered Rashella as she quickly walked out of her cabin to join Ensign Rechian. As the door opened onto the bridge, Rashella was enthralled at the sight before her. Unlike what she had experienced during her training and recent inspection tour, the bridge was in full operation with much activity from the crew members present. The huge display screen at the front of the bridge showed the sun as it became larger and larger in view. "Madam Counselor, so good of you to come. I thought you might like to observe the test from here on the bridge," said Captain Pikeson. "Thank you so much for inviting me here, Captain. I would truly enjoy watching the SAG test," Rashella replied enthusiastically. "We are 14,000 kilometers from the sun, sir. Hull temperature is 1,000 degrees Celsius, announced Lieutenant Leshian from his navigation post. "Very well, Lieutenant. Let's come to full stop. Engineering, please ready the shielding array generator," commanded the captain. "Aye, Captain. We are ready when you are," replied Commander Suzanne. "Let's set shield strength at 50% and engage the SAG," instructed Captain Pikeson to his engineering chief. Soon a slightly detectable green haze could be seen wrapping itself around the ship's hull. Rashella watched the force field fully enclose itself around the ship in an oblong shape, as it turned a greenish-blue color. "Captain, hull temperature is at 400 degrees Celsius and dropping." "Excellent, Lieutenant. Let's navigate the ship closer. Please let me know when the hull temperature starts to rise." "Ship is 1,000 kilometers out. Hull temperature at 500 degrees Celsius." "Thank you, Lieutenant. Let's increase shield strength to 70%. Hold temperature at 300 degrees Celsius and dropping. Satisfied with the SAG testing results so far, Captain Pikeson asked navigation to increase shield strength to 100% and navigate the ship to within 500 kilometers. Hold temperature at 100 degrees Celsius. Sensors indicate an imminent solar flare at Class 5 level in approximately 2 minutes, sir. Let's maintain position, Lieutenant. I am confident the shield will hold. After hearing about the solar flare, Rashella tensed up slightly. She looked towards the captain seated a short distance away from where she sat. Captain Pikeson's confidence gave her reassurance that everything would be okay. 1 minute before solar eruption, announced the helmsman. Brace for impact, everyone, called out the captain from his chair on the bridge. The bridge grew silent as everyone waited for the massive solar flare that would slam into the ship's shield in less than a minute. Suddenly, the huge display showed an enormous eruption coming off the sun's surface and heading straight towards the ship. Within seconds, a Class 5 solar flare blasted against the force field surrounding the ship. The massive energy surge from the sun pounding into the shield caused the entire ship to jolt sideways as everyone on the bridge held on to keep from falling over. Ship's hold temperature at 200 degrees, Captain. Excellent. Let's drop shields and navigate back to 24,000 kilometers. Once at 24,000 kilometers, send out one of our probes to get a temperature reading. Aye, sir. Everyone on the bridge began to clap at the successful results of the SAG's first test since its recent upgrade. After a short while, Lieutenant Leshian announced the probe temperature results. Temperature reading was 5 million degrees Celsius, before the probe burnt up at 400 kilometers, Captain. Thank you all for a successful test. Engineering, please perform a diagnostic on the shielding array generator and let me know the results when it's completed, spoke the captain as he rose from his chair. So, Madam Counselor, what did you think? Spoke Captain Pikeson as he walked towards Rashella. It was a little intense for me, Captain, but it was also amazing to observe, replied Rashella. I will be taking dinner in about an hour. Perhaps you could join me, asked the captain. I would be honored. Excellent. I will see you in the cafeteria around 1800. The captain smiled and nodded at Rashella before heading over to the science station to review some recent data from the probe. Walking into the crew's mess area, Rashella spied the captain sitting with Commander Suzanne at a table towards the rear of the room. Upon seeing Rashella approach the table, both men stood up to greet her. Glad you could make it, Madam Counselor, said the captain as he shook Rashella's hand. So good to see my star student again, spoke Commander Suzanne as he too reached out to shake Rashella's hand. Thank you, gentlemen. I hope I am not interrupting anything. No, not at all, Madam Counselor. The commander was just updating me on the SAG diagnostic results. Captain Pikeson pulled out a seat for Rashella. I hope the results were good, said Rashella before nodding thanks to the captain and taking her seat. They were indeed, ma'am. All tests came out at 100%, said Commander Suzanne as he sat back down. I am so thrilled to hear that, Commander, and you both can call me Rashella if you like. Perhaps in these informal settings, Madam Counselor, that would be okay, but we all have a huge amount of respect for you and what you have done for Fleet Command and Eurotopia, said Captain Pikeson as he smiled at Rashella. Well, thank you, Captain. It has been a true honor to serve the Eurotopian people in any capacity that I can. Rising from the table, Commander Suzanne nodded to Captain Pikeson and Rashella and said, Well, I need to return to engineering. It was a pleasure to see you again, Madam Counselor. Please come by engineering when you get the chance. It was wonderful to see you again as well, Commander. I will definitely plan on stopping by engineering soon. Once the commander had left, Captain Pikeson asked, I hope you like what I ordered. It is shipboard food, but the chefs can still whip up some pretty tasty meals. Thank you, Captain. I am sure it will be wonderful, replied Rashella. I am so glad the SAG performed as expected. As am I. Unfortunately, not every race in this galaxy is as charming as the Eurotopians. Having a good defensive system will help ensure our safety as we begin to explore our galaxy. I have seen the reports concerning aggression from what has been described as a warlike race. I am also glad we have upgraded the shielding array generator system and added the weapon systems recommended by the Andosians, Rashella said, just before one of the crew came over with their food. Excuse me, Captain and Madam Counselor. Here is the food you ordered. Thank you, Airman, the captain said as the crew member set the food down. So what are the plans now, Captain? Asked Rashella before taking a bite of her food. We will make some short runs around our solar system through the night to check on various mining operations, and tomorrow morning we will plot a course to Sector 4 and prepare to take the ship into FTL. That sounds wonderful, Captain. Seeing a whole new part of our galaxy will be so exciting. After getting to know each other a little better, the captain and Rashella talked more about the mission and their thoughts on Eurotopia's future. Just as they were both getting ready to leave, the Andosian who was second in command to Captain Pikeson came over to the table with a somewhat stern look. After the first officer had finished whispering in the captain's ear, the captain excused himself and left with the commander. The captain appeared somewhat disturbed when he excused himself. I do hope everything is all right, thought Rashella as she walked back to her quarters. Within the hour, the captain's voice came over the shipboard speakers. I have just finished consulting with Fleet Command concerning an incident that was conveyed to us by our Andosian partners in Sector 7. Our current mission has changed. We will be navigating to Sector 7 within the hour. All crew members, please report to your duty stations. Soon, the cabin AI told Rashella someone was at the door. Opening the door, Rashella was greeted by Ensign Rechian. The captain has asked me to inform you that he would like you to stay in your quarters for the time being. If there is anything you need, please ask the AI to contact me. Thank you, Ensign. I will, spoke a shaken Rashella. After the door closed, she walked over to her desk to find out as much as she could about this warlike race the Andosians had warned Fleet Command about. Unable to explain why, her intuition was telling her that they were going to be somehow involved in this incident that the captain had just conveyed to the crew. 100 miles above the planet Tehran in the Ellipsan vessel, Dragokriton. The delegation to Tehran was unsuccessful in securing an agreement with the inhabitants of the planet. Scans indicate advanced weapons capability, but nothing our shields and weapons could not defend and counter, spoke second-in-command Eurotopia to the captain as he came on the bridge. I do not understand why they would reject our generous offer. Did you explain to them that aligning with us would be in their best interest? Exclaimed Captain Krytoson to his first officer. I did, sir. It almost seemed like they were apprehensive about partnering with us. Even implied threats did not seem to deter their intent to not collaborate with us, replied Commander Eurotopia. Well, regardless, this Helasan substance is too important for Ellipsan and our space fleet. After a short pause, the captain toggled his personal intercom. Engineering, begin preparing our weapon systems. I believe a demonstration is in order, barked the captain as he strode back and forth on the bridge. As with many of the advanced races in the galaxy, the Tehrans had already heard about this new aggressive race that had begun to cause turmoil throughout the galaxy. While getting plans for some of the Ellipsan technologies would benefit the Tehrans in their own space program, they also knew that aligning with this reptilian humanoid race would not endear the Tehrans to many of the other advanced races in the galaxy. Intuitively, the Tehrans also felt that any collaboration with this race would be short-lived at best. This became even more apparent after Tehran representatives met with the Ellipsan delegation sent down from the giant spacecraft orbiting their planet. While the Tehrans were an intellectual-based race who prided themselves on their ability to use reason to solve problems and to develop the technologies that allowed their society to flourish, the Ellipsan delegation they encountered seemed barbaric in both appearance and mannerisms. Standing almost 7 feet tall, the large and muscular Ellipsan delegation members, who all wore body armor and various weapons strapped to their belts, were indeed an imposing presence, and their leader was even larger than the rest of the delegation. As the Ellipsan leader spoke, his huge razor-sharp teeth could not be missed. Seeing the talks were not going as planned, the leader of the delegation of large humanoid reptilians spoke to the other members in a language that resembled hissing sounds of various tones. Speaking one last time to the Tehran representatives to try and secure an agreement, the leader's tone and implied threats did not go over well with the Tehrans at all. "I believe this discussion is not in the best interest of the Tehran people, and should come to an end. Please convey our regret in not being able to secure an agreement between our peoples," spoke the female leader of the Tehran representatives. With that, the reptilian leader spoke quickly to the others. They all looked at the Tehran delegation with disdain, before turning and leaving the meeting place to head back to their transport vessel. As soon as the Ellipsan craft lifted off the ground, the Tehrans sent out a distress call to the Andosians, who had recently visited their planet to inquire about a possible alliance. Back on the ship, Captain Kritoson prepared his next move. "Find me a formidable target with the least amount of Tehran casualties," commanded the captain to his bridge crew. The science officer spoke timidly to the captain. "The largest mountain at the third quadrant looks to be the least inhabited area, sir." "Very well. Let's prepare the missile launch on the next orbit over Quadrant 3, commanded the captain to his helmsman. "Aye, sir. PML weapon is ready for deployment in 1 minute, replied the helmsman. With the mountain now in sight, the helmsman said, "Missile lock is engaged and ready at your command." "Fire the weapon at the target," commanded the captain. As before, the Turin matter-based missile precisely struck the mountain. After a blinding light and incredibly loud explosion, the spot where the huge mountain once was located was now just an enormous hole in the ground. Upon hearing the news of the mountain's destruction and resulting casualties, the Tehran leadership sent out a second distress call in the hopes that some spacefaring race would intercept it. Aboard Starship 1 en route to the planet Tehran. As Starship 1 continued to navigate at FTL speed towards the threat in Sector 7, Rashella reviewed all the reports surrounding the warlike race creating chaos at various sectors of the galaxy. How could such a primitive acting race even achieve spaceflight capabilities, wondered Rashella as she read the reports. Based on Eurotopia's history and what she had learned about the Andosian race, Rashella just assumed that a majority of spacefaring races in the galaxy would be more benign like her own. While her theory might have been mostly correct, there were races out there that could pose a threat to her world now and in the future. "I will need to discuss this with the Council when I return," she thought, as she prepared to meditate on the upcoming threat. Relaxing her mind and body while sitting upright in the reading chair in her cabin, Rashella closed her eyes and began to quiet her mind of all thought as she allowed her mind to enter the void. From this divine place in her mind, she began to ponder the current situation with the special detachment she had been taught by Rashella. "I so wish she was here right now." Within a short time Rashella heard Rashella speak to her in her mind, "Dear one, as always I am connected to you. You are about to be part of something that is not entirely set right now. There is a chaotic aspect to your future that has not fully formed in the universal substance. This unexpected event is just now unfolding. It is vital that you fully embrace all that you have learned, and try to retain a detachment from this situation as much as possible. The universal mind is always available for all who seek its unfathomable wisdom. Always remember that you are one with all that is, and the sum of all knowledge and wisdom is forever available to you. I must leave you now so you can create your desired future. Remember all that you have been taught and use it wisely." With those words echoing in her mind, Rashella came out of her meditative state. As she became fully conscious, a thought came to her. What is the best way to shut down aggressive behavior? Immediately, Rashella asked her AI to contact Ensign Rechian. Soon the voice of Ensign Rechian came through her cabin speakers. "How can I help you, Madam Counselor?" "I need to speak with the captain as soon as possible," exclaimed Rashella. After about a minute, Ensign Rechian's voice came over the cabin speakers. "The captain can only spare a brief time but can meet you in the situation room in 5 minutes. I will come by to get you and take you to the captain." "Thank you, Ensign Rechian." Sitting across the table from Captain Pikeson, Rashella told him how her intuition had given her insight that this current threat was most likely due to this new warlike race that had been creating havoc throughout the galaxy. Staring at Rashella, Captain Pikeson pondered her words before responding. "I'm not exactly sure how your intuition has given you accurate information concerning our current situation. I'm also not sure how you will be able to assist us with this matter." "Let's just say I have some special skills, Captain," Rashella replied before going into full details of her plan. Aboard the Ellipsan vessel, Dragocraton. "We have located the easiest route to obtain a source of Hellasan, Captain." The captain acknowledged the helmsman's words before toggling his personal communicator. "Engineering, are all of the containment modules ready?" "Aye, Captain. The modules are prepped and ready to take down to the surface," replied Commander Wysan. Turning to his first officer, the captain commanded, "Commander, prep a landing party to help with the Hellasan-based substance extraction and infusion into the containers. In the meantime, we will prepare the area for your arrival." "Aye, Captain. I will inform you when we are ready to launch to the surface." With that, Captain Kryterson commanded his engineering officer to prepare the ion laser cannon. Once in position, the captain ordered a 50-mile square pattern be blazed with the ILC around the area the Hellasan had been located. The Tehran Council watched the satellite video showing the power and precise nature of the laser cannon's blinding destruction. Lead member Krenis of the Tehran Council exclaimed, "I fear we cannot defeat these aggressors without assistance. Their weapons technology is unmatched in this sector. If we try to interfere, I am afraid they may target one or more of our cities. I hope our message was received." Back on the ship, Commander Loritosan informed the captain they were ready to depart for the surface. "Excellent, Commander. We will monitor your progress from here. After this last ILC demonstration, I do not believe the Tehrans will make any attempt to interfere with your mission. If they do, I will make sure they regret that decision." "Aye, sir. Then we will be on our way." Once on the surface at the extraction site, Commander Loritosan and his team began the process of removing the Hellasan substance from below the surface, so it could be infused into the containment modules for transport and storage on the ship. Inside the Tehran solar system. As soon as Starship 1 came out of FTL, Captain Pikeson ordered the helm to immediately navigate behind one of the moons of a giant gas planet at the outer edge of the solar system. With the spacecraft sufficiently camouflaged behind the moon, Captain Pikeson notified engineering to ready the FTL drive for a quick burst to the Tehran planet. "Madam Counselor, are you ready to implement your idea?" came the captain's voice over Rashella's cabin speakers. "I am, Captain." As she sat in the cabin chair, Rashella closed her eyes and sought the void of all possibilities. Still somewhat skeptical concerning Rashella's plan, Captain Pikeson did feel that her plan might just give them the time needed to disable the huge battlecraft above Tehran. Rashella's small demonstration in the situation room had given the captain a little more confidence in the plan's success. Sitting across the table the previous night, Rashella smiled and told the captain, "Reality is only an elaborate illusion, and it is possible to even create an illusion within the illusion." With that, 10 small replicas of Starship One appeared in front of Captain Pikeson's face. Somewhat startled by this illusion that looked so real, Captain Pikeson asked incredulously, "Can you make them larger?" "I believe that should not be a problem, Captain." After receiving confirmation from Rashella that she was ready, Captain Pikeson commanded the helmsman to set course for orbit above Tehran, that would put Starship One in proximity to the alien vessel. Once the course was set and engineering confirmed they were ready, Captain Pikeson gave the command to engage. "Captain, we detected a presence of something in the outer edge of this solar system for just a few seconds before it disappeared," exclaimed the Dragocraton helmsman. "Perform a deep scan of that area. Engage shields and prepare the ILC," shouted Captain Kritoson. After a few minutes the helmsman exclaimed, "Captain, our close-range sensors are now reporting multiple vessels surrounding our ship. Engage outside view. Shields at full power," shouted the captain. All displays on the bridge were now showing multiple spacecraft on all sides of the Dragocraton. "How can this be? I need answers now. Perform deep scans on all of these vessels and report anything found." Captain Kritoson strode around the bridge trying to understand how these vessels showed up so quickly without prior detection. From engineering, Tyson watched the monitors and thought to himself, "Why have these enemy vessels not fired upon us yet? We are clearly outnumbered. I am not sure we even have enough Helasan to fight off that many ships." Everything that had occurred since they arrived at this planet had seemed disturbing to Tyson. When initial negotiations had failed on the surface and the captain ordered the use of the ILC, Tyson was shocked at the cruelty of the captain's intent on this world below them. "It does not feel right that we should be forcing the inhabitants of this planet to submit to our demands. We should have looked for a source of Helasan that did not involve the possible killing of millions of beings," thought Tyson, as he continued to stare at the monitor. Back on the bridge, the helmsman called out to the captain, "Sir, deep scan of the vessels indicates similar signatures for 9 of the 10 vessels. The 10th is showing a slightly different impression than the others." After pondering this new information, Captain Kritoson quickly gave the command, "Fire the ILC at the vessel showing the difference." As soon as Starship One had come out of FTL and stopped near the alien vessel, Rashella heard the captain's voice shout over the cabin speaker, "Now, Madam Counselor." Already in a deep meditative trance, Rashella used her mind to create images of multiple Starship One vessels surrounding the alien craft she visualized in her mind. As he watched the outside view of the alien craft and the 9 images of Starship One surrounding the alien vessel, Captain Pikeson looked at the scene before him with disbelief. "Captain, they are performing scans on our ship and the surrounding area. Ready the SAG and prepare to fire on the alien vessel on my command," said Captain Pikeson as he continued to watch the amazing sight on the bridge's main display. "Hopefully, this bully will back down and leave the area," thought the captain. "Captain, their scan has locked on us." Just as Captain Pikeson gave the command to raise shields, a blistering blue and white light shot out from the alien vessel and hit Starship One on the starboard side, before the shield had fully enveloped the ship. The blast from the alien ship's weapon violently hit the hull with a massive strike that slammed the ship sideways. Flung from her chair, Rashella lost the mental image she had been holding in her mind. Racing out of the cabin, she headed straight to the bridge. On the bridge display, the outside view now showed just the alien vessel. "Engineering, I need a damage report right now," shouted Captain Pikeson through the bridge intercom as he got back on his feet. "Captain, an intense laser strike has damaged multiple arrays on the starboard side. The shielding array generator is currently only able to provide a 50% force field around the ship. I'm not sure we can create the Tolotech crystals needed in time. That weapon is powerful. We will not be able to withstand any more strikes, thought Captain Pikeson as he pondered his next move. Soon, Rashella came through the bridge door. Captain, what has happened? We were struck with a powerful laser. Multiple arrays are damaged. We need to replace the main Tolotech crystals as soon as possible. Maybe I can help, shouted Rashella as she ran out of the bridge and towards her cabin. Direct hit on the ship's starboard side, Captain, called out the helmsman aboard the Dragocraton. Excellent. Captain Kryterson toggled his personal communicator. Engineering, prepare the ILC for another blast at the alien vessel. Aye, Captain. We have emptied the first canister of Hellassan fuel. It will take about 5 minutes to connect the second canister, replied the engineering chief. You fool. This confrontation will be over in 5 minutes. The captain looked towards the helmsman. Prepare to fire the Turin missile on my command. Missile lock on the alien vessel, sir. Fire the missile now. After pondering the current situation, Tyson thought to himself, that ship could have easily fired upon us when it first appeared, but they did not. I think they were giving us time to leave the area. I cannot allow us to destroy that alien vessel. This has all been so wrong and I must make it right regardless of the consequences. With all the commotion in engineering as the crew rushed to replace the spent canister, Tyson quickly raced over to the main control panel for the ILC system. As the rest of the engineering crew worked to install the second canister of Hellassan fuel, Tyson opened the main panel door and quickly unseated one of the critical circuit boards needed to prepare the Hellassan fuel interface with the laser. Before anyone had noticed, he quickly closed the panel door and returned to assist with the canister change-out. Now back in her cabin, Rashella was knocked out of the chair and to the floor due to yet another hit from the alien vessel. The missile fired from the alien ship struck the force field and exploded on impact. While the sag held back the blast from damaging the ship any further, the shock of the impact violently shook Starship One once again. Back on the bridge, the helmsman called out to Captain Pikeson, "Shield strength currently at 30%, sir." "Very well. Prepare to fire our laser weapon on my command." Captain Pikeson toggled the communicator on his chair. "Engineering, how are we coming on the new Tolotech crystals?" "We are about 10 minutes out from completing the crystal builds with the RMO system and installation behind the hull," answered Commander Suzanne. "I am not sure why they have not fired upon us again with that laser. I do not want to destroy that vessel, but if we cannot get our shields back up to full capacity soon, I will have no choice but to use our weapons," thought the captain as he continued to observe the enemy ship on the screen. Seated once again in the cabin chair, Rashella began to quiet her mind and detach herself from the current situation. "Remember, dear one, it is vital that you detach yourself completely, so you can generate all your powers without interference from any stray thoughts that could dilute your focus," rang through Rashella's mind as she continued to move her mind into the void. Once in the void, Rashella opened her mind to the all that is and the infinite information it possessed. She focused her thoughts on the Toltec crystals. With both her previous studies of the crystals and the information she was obtaining from her connection to infinite mind, she began to imagine the crystals forming from the universal substance and replacing the damaged ones behind the starboard side hull. Just before Rashella had completed her visualization, a second missile strike from the alien vessel struck Starship One. The powerful blast once again threw Rashella from her chair and made her jolt from her meditation. "Captain, that last missile strike weakened the shields to just 10%. We will not be able to withstand any more hits," exclaimed Lieutenant Leshian. "Engineering, it is now or never," shouted the captain. "Aye, Captain. We are replacing the crystals as fast as possible, but there are even more damaged than originally anticipated," replied Commander Suzanne. Back on the Dragocraton, Commander Wysan initialized the ion laser cannon, but it showed an error with the interface between the laser and the helasan fuel canister. Soon the captain's voice came over the speakers in engineering. "Where is my ILC, Commander?" "We are experiencing a problem with the interface, sir." "I will let you know when we are ready," replied the engineering chief. "It had better be soon, Commander," came Captain Kratosin's booming voice once again. Running over to the main control panel, Commander Wysan threw open the door. Pushing on all the circuit boards, the engineering chief felt one of the boards slip into place. "Initialize the ILC again," yelled out the commander to his crew chief. Soon, the ion laser cannon was fully back online with a full canister of helasan fuel. "I hope the other ship has repaired their damage," thought Tyson as he heard his commanding officer tell the captain the ILC was ready to fire. "Fire the ILC at that ship now," yelled the captain to his helmsman. Watching the main display from his chair on the bridge, Captain Pikeson yelled for his crew to brace for impact. He watched intently as the blue and white light once again came out of the alien vessel. Soon, the brilliant and powerful laser struck Starship One's shields. Amazingly, the powerful blast was deflected by the force field and ricocheted off into space. "Captain, our shields are now at full power," the helmsman called out. "Great job engineering," shouted the captain over the bridge intercom. "Thank you, sir, but we were actually not able to get all the crystals replaced that are required for full shield power. I am not sure how we are now at 100%, replied Commander Suzanne. "Captain, 5 Andosian ships have just dropped out of FTL and are now surrounding the alien vessel," called out Lieutenant Leshian. "Hopefully, these aliens have had enough and will leave before they get destroyed," thought Captain Pikeson as he watched the main display. After watching the extremely powerful laser bounce off the enemy ship's force field, the Dragokritan captain told his helmsman to prepare to fire the ILC again. "Sir, scans have just picked up 5 other vessels. Deep scans show that while the ships are different than the other one, they do appear to be real." As he analyzed the current situation, Captain Kratosin thought to himself, "The shielding on that vessel is incredible. Based on their shielding technology, I wonder what kind of weapons technology they possess. We also have 5 more ships to contend with. I am not sure why they have not fired upon us yet, but it is time to leave." "Commander Eurotopia, pack up and return to the ship immediately," called out Captain Kratosin to his first officer still on the surface of the Tehran world. "We have not completed the extraction, sir," replied the commander. "I do not care. Leave the planet now or you will be stuck there," yelled the captain to his first officer. Within minutes, Commander Eurotopia and his team were back aboard the Dragokritan. "Set a course for homeworld and engage FTL now," commanded Captain Kratosin. Extremely angry, the captain yelled out as he started to leave the bridge, "I will be in my quarters. No one is to disturb me." Captain Pikeson watched as a smaller transport craft docked with the alien vessel. Soon, the alien vessel went into FTL and disappeared. Upon seeing this, the entire bridge crew cheered. "Great job, everyone. I need to confer with both the Andosians and Tehrans and then we will head back home," called out the captain as he rose from his chair. After discussions with the Andosians and Tehrans and all parties had left Starship One, Captain Pikeson told his helmsman to plot a route back to Eurotopia and engage FTL. Relaxing in her cabin, Rashella heard the AI communicate that someone was at the door. Opening the door, Rashella saw the captain standing outside in the passageway. "May I come in, Madam Counselor?" "Of course, Captain. Please come in. So, I am not exactly sure what completely happened today, but perhaps you could help explain some of the details over dinner tonight. How does 1900 in the cafeteria sound?" "That sounds good, Captain. I will see you in about an hour." With that, Captain Pikeson nodded and smiled at Rashella before turning around and leaving the cabin. This is going to be an interesting discussion, thought Rashella, as she began to freshen up for dinner.